On November 6, Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad sent a detailed letter of congratulations to new US President Barack Obama. Now, Obama may be finally ready to return the courtesy, as The Guardian has revealed. It will probably be an open letter, or a letter addressed to the Iranian people and sent directly to the supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei. The responsibility for the final draft falls on Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. The Clinton State Department is spinning as a symbolic gesture and a changing tone compared to the Bush axis of evil era. But what will Washington actually tell Tehran? That the US does not want regime change anymore, just a little change in behavior? Take the condescending tone in one of the drafts. It asks Iran to let loose of its pariah status in the West. Well, Iran is not a pariah state in Latin America, in Africa, or in the Middle East. And it calls on Iran to stop sponsoring terrorism. Well, this is still Bush rhetoric, basically. Tehran may reply, what about US sponsoring dictators and terrorists for these past 5 decades? And they can also say, what about US suspending the CIA covert action regime change campaign? Very active for the past 2 years in Iranian Kurdistan, in Sistan Baluchistan in the southeast, and in Khuzestan province in the southwest, where the Iranian oil fields are. With nothing for the postman to deliver yet, Washington is telegraphing other ambiguous moves, such as the appointment of this man as the new envoy to Iran. But former Bill Clinton Middle East negotiator Dennis Ross happens to be the co-chairman with new Afghanistan-Pakistan envoy Richard Holbrooke of this organization, would happen to, I quote, congratulate them on their recent appointments to the Department of State, even before Dennis Ross actually got his job. Also worth noting is that the advisory board of this organization includes this man, former CIA head James Woolsey, who has been peddling World War IV against Islamofascism for years. Dennis Ross is also counselor and distinguished fellow at the Washington Institute of Near East Policy, YNAP, founded in 1985 and always very, very close to the executive power in Washington. Realist scholars Stephen Walt and John Mearsheimer, they have defined YNAP as the crucial think tank of the Israel lobby. The very well-informed Nelson Report here in Washington got a crucial leak, an internal memo by the leaders of YNAP to its board of trustees, where YNAP was already billing Ross as, I quote, top advisor on a wide range of Middle East issues from the Arab-Israeli peace process to Iran. In sum, the Middle East Obama envoy. But maybe Ross won't be Superman after all, towering over all the other envoys. There has been strong opposition to him. What he's about to get, for sure, is Iran. Everything. The nuclear dossier, the relationship with Hamas and Hezbollah, Iran and Iraq, and relationship between Iran and the rest of the Persian Gulf and the Arab world. But there's a problem. Israel lobby Ross knows nothing about Iran. Does Ross fit into Obama's self-declared new mutual respect relationship with the Muslim world? Hardly. It's a disastrous message to Tehran. Take the hardline newspaper Kayhan, very close to the Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei. They denounce Ross as, I quote, a Zionist lobbyist. And what about Ahmadinejad? Well, he's running for re-election next June. Although his economic policies have been an absolute disaster and his diplomatic skills appalling, he retains a good chance of winning. Ahmadinejad knows exactly what ordinary Iranians want to hear. Ahmadinejad wants 2 very specific apologies from Washington, taken very, very seriously by Iranians of all political persuasions. Number 1, the CIA financed 1953 coup against Prime Minister Mossadegh that got the Shah into power. And number 2, the US shooting down an Iranian Airbus with a cruise missile in 1988, killing 290 civilians. If and when this letter goes through, the next step is to wait. Tehran will bide its time. The internal controversy is nothing but boiling hot in Tehran. The realists, they want normal relations with the US. But ideologues, and that includes the Ahmadinejad faction, they are not so sure. And the same thing goes for US-Israel. Admiral Mike Mullen, to the delight of the Jerusalem Post, he wants to keep his bombing options on the table. And Pentagon Supremo Bob Gates, true to his record, he did the same thing to Bush's father, seems to be on the same page with Mike Mullen. The stakes are very, very high. On one side, Obama. On the other side, the Pentagon, the Israel lobby, and radicals in Tehran. Please, please, wait a minute, Mr. Postman. This letter better be damn good.
Wait, oh yes, wait a minute, Mr. Postman. Wait, Mr. Postman. Mr. Postman again.
Donate today and receive a new documentary film available to members of the Real News Network. The History of the National Security State with legendary author Gore Vidal. Bonus features of the DVD include an in-depth response to Vidal from ex-CIA analyst Ray McGovern, who served under 7 U.S. presidents, an exclusive interview with Colin Powell's former Chief of Staff Larry Wilkerson, and an insightful interview with oil policy analyst Antonia Juhas.
The news magazine of the screen. Living glimpses of history in the making.
Hollywood and Washington, there's a symbiotic relationship. They both deal with illusions. Reality doesn't often play much of a part. I think I saw through the myth of the Cold War almost from the beginning. I was a Washington political kid from a political family. Roosevelt first had radio because he had this great speaking voice and everyone liked to hear. Truman proceeded to break every arrangement that Roosevelt had set up for a peaceful coexistence. And Truman thought that it would be a good idea. Why not just stay armed all the time? And then he devised the national security state. You've got to go up and swear allegiance to the United States or else you're a commie. I mean, we had imported fascism. We get Dwight Eisenhower, who said that we have this great military industrial complex. It is a dangerous thing. And he said this is going to change everything. And the way our country's governed is going to change us politically. Along comes Jack Kennedy, who wanted to make his mark, believed in the Cold War. But he said in this kind of politics, it is the appearance of things that matters. I think everybody should take a sober look at the world about us. The national security state still exists, only it isn't communism anymore, it's terrorism. This is the most serious thing that has happened in the history of the United States. Knowledge is power. We need an honest news system.
We need the real news.
This is the sort of thing we can build right now without anyone else's permission from the government or from the business community. It's the power's in our hands.
If we're not going to sleepwalk into more wars, we think we need to start with a television news network that won't bow to pressure and has the courage to seek facts. And that means independent economics. And that's why we need you.
Make a tax-deductible donation now of at least $10 a month or a one-time give of at least $75. As a thank you for your support, we will send you the new documentary film, The History of the National Security State.